It's a hot, sticky afternoon at Misano. Now it's the time for Blancpain GT Sports Club to go out for the first of its 2 qualifying sessions. Great mix of cars already powering onto the start-finish straight. The white and yellow Mercedes of Lee Mole entered for him by ERC Sport. Going to see what he can do. See 45 degrees track temperature. Tyres are a major issue here. We've seen with the other competitors in other classes out around the circuit. The big problem is when you run down the back straight from turn 10 through the kink at turn 11, through the kink at turn 12, they get to 13. A lot of drivers going very, very wide out beyond the curves and even spinning down at the end of the lap. So it's all about just trying to know your level of grip and not push out beyond that. It's very, very hot and sticky here, and in the cockpits it's all about trying to keep cool, calm and collected. 12 cars coming out to play in this 2 qualifying sessions, and plenty of chance to get their experience ahead. They've had decent practice sessions too, and the racing here goes all the way in tonight into 11 o'clock tonight, so it will still be warm then, but not as searingly hot as it is right now. GT Sports Club will go out for their race at 6:05 this evening. It won't have cooled down particularly, but the big controlling thing here, there has been something we haven't had the last couple of days when it's been nearly 40 degrees air temperature. There's a bit of a breeze, and that's really very, very welcome indeed for all the drivers concerned. So Lee Mole for the ERC Sport Team, short set, the first of the flying laps and the fastest of the flying laps. Nobody else has got close to his sector times thus far. Lee with loads of experience across the board, raced all around Europe in GT racing, competed in the British GT Championship and is laying down the marker. First flying lap, just waiting for it to be stuck on the board. There is the answer. They're going 1 minute 38.570 seconds. Jens Rino Muller in the Honda made such a splash since joining the championship. His Reno Racing Honda really going great guns in 2019. The Dane really enjoying his action. Enjoying it so much he won both the races in the opening round at Monza, collected a 2nd and then a 5th at Paul Ricard when the wins went on that occasion to Luigi Lucchini, BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari, and the 2nd of the 2 races there to Murid Sultanov, the Russian racer, competing in a Kessel Racing Ferrari. So plenty of drivers getting to the very sharp end of the field, but it's a question of who can do it the most consistently. Jens really getting the tail to swing around in a sort of pendulum form there on his Honda, but time still by nearly a 2nd. Lee Mole's advantage over Mario Cordoni. Jens at the moment, after his first flyer, 2.5 seconds down, but clearly that was a sighter lap in so many ways, because the Dane really is a flying Dane in this session. And he's, as you can see, he's improved his middle sector time. It's fastest of anybody's, but he's found 1.2 seconds in that alone. So he's definitely, I would suggest, go up into 2nd, listed 4th at the moment. That's sure to improve. There are 16 turns on the circuit. He's just going through the 16th now. Out over the curbs. Is that going to be good for 2nd? Is it going to be good for 1st? Let us see. In fact, he slipped to 5th, waiting for that time to come on the board. Good for 1st. 1st by half a second, 0.512 of a second over Lee Mole. So 1 minute 37.121 seconds is the time to beat. Number 23 Ferrari. That's 3rd fastest. That's Murid Sultanov, the driver who won the 2nd of the 2 races last time out. That was at Paul Ricard. Murad being very, very cautious at that point in the lap. It's very tight. That was through turns 4, 5. He's just gone through 6. Turn 7 is a very slight kink on the what I call the sort of infield straight. It goes opposite to the start-finish straight down the infield. Then the most notable corner there is at the end of that little straight, turn 8. There it is, the hairpin lap, and well, trying to experience the red, the white and the green of the Italian flag out beyond the edge of the circuit. So perhaps now going to back off a little bit. Murid Sultanov 4th at the moment. The order is Jens Rino Moller in his Honda, then Christian Hook in his Ferrari, Mario Cordoni goes into 3rd in his Ferrari, Lee Mole in the Mercedes, who set the early pace in his Mercedes, and now dropping to 5th, but probably going to improve on this lap. Murid Sultanov, looking at him now, but in fact I think he's about to back off a little bit because his middle sector really wasn't very good at all. As you can see, half a second and more down on his very best time. which would have been on the previous flying lap. There's a 5-second span from top to bottom. Expect that to come down. Jens Muller leading the way, and Howard Blank is slowest at the moment, the number 56 AF Corsa Ferrari. Sorting off that slow middle sector, and then yes, he really backed off 3 seconds down in his final sector of the lap. Cooled down, calmed down, and now maybe with the clear, even then just not quite working for him as he went out of turn 2. Rat started lacking front end grip. Christian Hook, here we have him now, second fastest. He's down only by 0.169 of a second, waiting to see if the lap's complete. Yes, it is, and again, really backed off in the third of the 3 sectors. Coach McCanty, normally find him at the front. He's not there yet. The 33 Ferrari, Christian Hook. What's he going to do at the start of this lap? Going wide out of turn 3, but that seems fairly okay. And then a much tighter turn 4. Turn 5 is pretty tight as well. And we've got a spinner. Actually didn't even seem to interrupt Christian Hook, so all was okay for the German. Still second fastest. Third fastest, Mario Cordoni. Mario is putting a good lap together, so good he just moved into second place. So Christian Hook, look at him now, he has dropped to third. Mario, his teammate. Mario white, red and green Ferrari. Here's the replay of Howard Blank. He's the slowest driver at the moment and therefore not improving, and the red flag has flown. The red flag has flown because the car of Howard Blank is still clearly in the way. 6 3/4 minutes remaining. Trying to see which drivers were interrupted. Very few of them are actually going quicker on that lap, so no one can really complain too much. The red flag has flown. So slight hiatus for the Blancpain GT Sports Club runners. They've got the second qualifying session coming up, and unlike the Blancpain GT World Challenge, it's a one driver lineup, so it's not a case of coming in and handing over to their teammate. It's all theirs. So, top of the charts, the lone Honda in the field. It's made a big splash this year, Jens Muller, Danish racer. But the fact that Mario Cordoni is just 0.126 of a second down in the 51 Ferrari, entered by AF Corsa, and Christian Hook, the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, the green one, number 33, is only 0.169. In fact, just over half a second down to Lee Moles. So really close at the front of the field. There you can see the times on the screen. Then a bit of a gap back to the best of the rest, which is Murad Sultanov. But Murad had a few of his laps slightly interrupted by traffic, and then, of course, by the red flag. The clock remains at 6 minutes and 45. Looking for any other messages. Car 56, the one we saw spun. That was Howard Blank. Has had his best time removed for causing a red flag, but that hasn't hurt him too much. He was 12th, and he stays 12th out of the 12 cars, but it certainly was a better lap than he managed up to that point. So the field trickling back around out of turn 15. On the inside of turn 16 they go, which is pit lane entry, coming just underneath my commentary box any moment now, but at a bated pace. It's hot, it's sticky, but mercifully there's a bit of a breeze here this afternoon. Just see the flags waving over the pit straight, the Pirelli banners up and down the pit straight, and certainly any puff of breeze is welcome. It's been super hot here at Misano. For all the drivers concerned, the conditions seem to change by the moment, but the one thing that doesn't change is just very, very difficult to get the tyres to behave as they should. Look at that heat haze. It tells you what you need to know. The other thing that tells you what you need to know is we're green again. Track temperature 45 degrees. It has been slightly higher. I saw 47, 48 earlier. Humidity starting to rise a little bit, and as I say that, it goes up by a few fractions. There's a cloud in the sky, not that I can see from my commentary box. It's all bright blue sky here on the Adriatic coast. Lee Mole appears to be the first driver to leave the pit lane. There he is, the ERC Sport Mercedes, 4th fastest, 0.512 of a second down for the British driver. Great rumbling engine note, and then another car very much at the sharp end of the field. That's Louis-Philippe Sonnen. In fact, no, sorry, I was confusing him with Mario Cordoni. Louis down in 11th place, penultimate place in the field. The Belgian racer, staunch supporter of the Blancpain GT Sports Club since its inception. Ferrari 488 GT3 is such a popular car, particularly, it seems, with the somewhat older drivers, the gentleman drivers who compete, and gentlewomen drivers. We haven't had a female racer in the field this year, but we certainly have in the last couple of years in the Blancpain GT Sports Club. And the Ferrari are very popular manufacturer for a lot of these drivers. Of course, looking at the pace of the Honda driver at the front of the field, and NSX is suddenly becoming more attractive, but of course Ferrari just has that cachet cast forward from its road car range, and therefore is always popular with drivers who get to a certain point in their business career, maybe put enough money aside to come and play at racing, and they very much enjoy having the prancing horse on their flanks. The deep basso rumble of the Mercedes as it starts a flying lap, and then the rather harder engine note of the chasing Honda. Don't forget the Mercedes with Lee Mole at the wheel is fourth fastest, but Jens Rienemöller is fastest of all in the Honda, but not by a lot. Only 0.12 of a second better than Mario Cordoni. Lee Mole is fourth. He needs to find 3/4 tenths, and he'll be up on a provisional front row position. There you can hear that rumble of the Mercedes. Still one of the best engine notes to my ear. It just means business. But look, they're going to make moves. They're all winding it up onto a flying lap. The clock is counting down. 4 minutes remain. This first of the two qualifying sessions. Defining the grid for the first of their two races. The race they're going to hold this evening. Nice tidy lap, but no improvements on time. But very close to his best in the first of the three sectors by Lee Mole. Where are the changes coming? It tends to be the drivers actually lower down in the field who maybe were a bit cautious on their first flying lap. Certainly Louis-Philippe Sonnen, we saw him. Oh dear, traffic does not help Lee Mole. And Louis down in 11th, but he's improved his first part of his lap. Pavel Strakov as well has also made steps. Lanta Malagamua in the blue Lamborghini as well, the racer from Sri Lanka. Picked up the pace. So Lee Mole across the start-finish line onto that flying lap. We saw him through his out lap, we saw him pick up the pace. Does that flying lap, there's the time on the chart. Oh, he's down 0.2 of a second, but plenty of track space, plenty of time. Well, time for two more flying laps for Lee Mole. Et al, a big twitch there from Murat Sultanov. See how hard the Russian is pushing. Will he improve? I suggest he may well do. His first sector wasn't brilliant, his middle sector was very good indeed. Waiting for the clock to add his latest laps, being a little bit slow on my timing screen, just waiting for that time to be added to. But the person to look at is number 33, it's Christian Hook. He's third fastest, he's set the fastest middle sector of anybody. So watch out, we could have a change at the top. It may no longer be the Honda at the top. So finally the time from Murat Sultanov comes through, close to his best, but not close enough. But Christian Hook, there he is. 33, Rinaldi Racing, of course they race in the full Blancpain series as well, and Mario Cordoni looks quick too. And Christian Hook goes to the top of the field, 1 minute, oh, he's 0.3 of a second faster than Jens Rienemöller in the Honda. Waiting for the Honda to respond. Very good lap indeed from Christian Hook. All the drivers in the bottom end of the field tending to improve their time. Stephen Earl, he's down in 10th position, and worse for him, he's in the pits at the moment. So that looks like qualifying session number 1 is run for him. Is going to be any change from Lee Mole? He's fallen down to, he stayed in 4th position, just waiting for his lap time to come through. And Lee Mole goes up into 2nd place, looking there at Louis-Philippe Sonnen, down 11th out of 12. He is going to improve, needs to improve. He's 3 and a bit seconds down on the ultimate pace. Cautious through turn 16, cautious and tidy. Should improve his time. His target is Stephen Earl. Stephen can't respond, as I said, he's in the pits. Does improve his time and stays just behind Stephen Earl, 1/10 of a second down. So it's Christian Hook. Number 33, Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. 2nd place, Lee Mole, the ERC Sport Mercedes. Down to 3rd, Jens Rienemöller. Mario Cordoni's 4th at the moment. Looking for an improvement. Is it going to come his way? Goes up to 3rd. So Jens Rienemöller's lost 3 positions in the last minute or so. He's got to respond. And he's not doing so in the first part of this lap. is he finding the hot temperatures, the hot track temperatures as well as air temperatures really hurting the grip he's trying to find in his Honda, or is he just being a bit cautious? Into the final half minute until the checkered flag will fall. 11 of the 12 cars out on the track. What changes are coming our way? Mario Cordoni, are we going to see an improvement? Doesn't look it that way. First part of the lap, he's a quarter of a second down on his very best. Lee Mould has just slightly improved on his best middle sector time. He's second. He's 2.27 of a second off Christian Hook's pace. Mario Cordoni in third. Look at him now in the number 51 Ferrari. Got traffic. Lee Mould coming up to complete another lap. He's second fastest. Will he go to the top? Waiting for the timing beam to be trimmed. And he stays in second place. 5/100 slower than his very best, so good consistent times for the British racer, but not enough to topple Christian Hook. Christian can't respond. Checkered flag is out and he's already in the pit lane. Any changes are going to come from further down the field. And Mario Cordoni last time was his best lap. He's not going to improve this time, so it's very close to the top. 0.3 of a second between Christian Hook, Lee Mould and Mario Cordoni in third place. Cordoni is not going to improve. You can see him just going through turn 15. He's already backed off, going into the pit lane. And the runners just making their final bid to improve their position. Car number 23, Murat Sultanov. Will he improve? Well, he fell to 1.5 seconds off the pace. He stays in that 5th position. So it's Ferrari from Mercedes, from Ferrari from Honda, from Ferrari from 2 Lamborghinis, and then 5 Ferraris. And there, the 44 ERC Sport Mercedes of Lee Mould. Titanium class driver, lots of experience of GT racers and GT racing. 1 lap good for second place and another lap that was good enough to be 4th quickest, so good consistent speed from him. But Christian Hook really delivered about 5 minutes ago, and that stood the test of time all the way through to the finish. So Rinaldi Racing have the bragging rights at the moment. Christian making his seasonal debut in the championship. Car previously driven by Rinaldi Racing's Vadim Kogai. But today Christian Hook doing a very, very good job. There it is, Rinaldi Racing top by, as you can see, very close, all the way down to 4th place, just over 1/3 of a second, covered the top 4. But it's Christian Hook taking bragging rights for Ferrari. Lee Mould leading the chase in Mercedes, the 2nd Ferrari in the hands of Mario Cordoni. Jens Molle in the Honda, 3rd Ferrari in the hands of Murat Sultanov. Then not such a brilliant showing as we're used to from Coach McCanty in his Lamborghini, so he's good only for 6th place. And Rick Lovett picking his way up the order in his Ferrari to finish 7th. So they have to go out and do it all over again. Christian Hook takes that first pole position. And a short break in between the 2 sessions here at Misano, a chance for the drivers to get some air into the cockpit. It is worth repeating, it's very, very hot indeed this weekend. Fortunately today feels a few degrees cooler than yesterday, and there is that gentle breeze that makes all the difference. I mentioned Christian Hook joining the field this weekend. Another person joining in is Howard Blank. He's the driver we saw having a little bit of a spin, the American racer, and he ended up slowest of the 12 drivers, but I'm sure we'll focus on what lies ahead and go back out for AF course and see what he can do in the 2nd session. Last car must have been very late starting its flying lap, or being the last car to do so, because that's only now is driving into the pit lane. Everything that is done has to be done all over again. We are about to go out and qualify for a 2nd time of asking. All the general noises down in the pit lane of air hammers as wheel changes are made. You can't hear the drivers sucking in liquid, they will all be doing that, but qualifying 2 will start in 1.5 minutes time at 15:53 local time. And if it's your first ever sighting of the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, you look at it and you can tell immediately that it's 46 degrees track temperature, way higher than you'd normally expect, but it's been a very hot handful of days here. Humidity is bobbing up and down. In fact, the good thing is actually coming down, which will make it less horrendous for all the drivers in their fireproof overalls, and mechanics likewise, all their pit wear. And the earliest instance, they put their shorts on if they can, or find a paddling pool in the paddock, because you can have a hot day, but you have a hot day on tarmac and concrete, and it makes it so much more relentless, and it holds that heat until, you know, late into the evening. 12 drivers concerned, racing for the various categories, but we have a special category in the Blancpain GT Sports Club, the Iron Cup, for drivers aged 60 and older, and that includes Louis-Philippe Sonnen, who won the first two races in class at Paul Ricard. The opening round, Stephen Earle won both of them, the ever popular American, and he won the second one, the second Iron Cup victory to be held at Paul Ricard. So great success at Monza, double success there, and one at Paul Ricard. So making his commuting across from the States all the more worthwhile. Very similar pattern to the first couple of sessions. We've got the first session, ERC Sports, Mercedes the front of the queue, Lee Mole second place in that line as the session gets underway. Is the Honda of Jens Moller, who made such a splash winning the opening two races. Then the blue Lamborghini behind that, Dylan Malagamua. And then Christian Hook, the driver who took pole for race one. His bright green Rinaldi Racing Ferrari in that line, and that looks like Stephen Earle tucked in behind a red Ferrari. It's almost invariably Stephen. Alternatively, it could be Howard Blank. Let's have a look at the number on the door. It's 111. It's our man, Stephen Earle. What the drivers will have worked out in that first session is how long their tyres stay sweet, and more to the point, how to stop getting the car rotating around a central point and putting too much pressure into the tyres. They've got to just be driving on their fingertips to get the balance, but then that's easy to say from a commentary box, but when they get down through the fast right-hand kinks at turn 11 and turn 12, they've got to be hanging onto that steering wheel with absolutely every ounce of fibre in their body. Very fast turns, your natural inclination is to come off the power, but you've got to force yourself to keep your foot down. But we've seen a lot of people getting it wrong, front washing away from them in turn 13. They need to brake hard for turn 14, and some of them are doing so already with their cars in the gravel trap. So it's a very tricky corner. Have to actually check wind direction, because if it follows them down that straight, which I don't think it is, then that would certainly add problems of its own. Green flags around the circuit, keep it clear, keep it rolling. Lee Mole, first one out of the pits in this, the second of the two qualifying sessions for the Blancpain GT Sports Club. He's got clear track ahead of him. Jens Muller's far enough behind in his Honda not to be interrupted by Lee Mole, and now this is surely the moment when they want to lay down the lap. It's going to be good enough to put them on pole position. No traffic, I was about to say no traffic ahead. Lee Mole comes out of turn 3 and immediately finds a Ferrari up in front of him. I presume that's Howard Blank, because we've already seen Stephen Earle, and very bad luck for Lee Mole. Set the fastest first sector of anyone, and that certainly has not helped him. Alternatively, in behind the Ferrari that came out and is going quite slowly is the second driver in the line, Jens Moller in his Honda. Will he be interrupted? I think he actually has got an easier opportunity to overtake it at a point that isn't critical to his lap. Or has he just backed off a bit and decided he'll wait and will make his own space? Certainly Lee Mole was compromised. Let's see what his second sector time. Well, he's fastest in the first, fastest in the second, but then it's the very start of the session. All the clocks are reset, so maybe that's sort of competitive. He's just the first one to be going on a flying lap, thus the extra speed. So again, 15 minutes of qualifying, short break, second qualifying session, also 15 minutes. Lee Mole determined to work his way to the front, only 4th in the first set of qualifying runs. Waiting for that time to, it's registered on the screen, 1 minute 38.358, its fastest of all. Waiting for Jens Moller to come through. Yes, he does. He's 1.4 seconds down in the black Honda. There it is. 139.7. More to come of that, you can be sure. So he got affected by that Ferrari. And it certainly cost him time. final sector of the lap alone, Lee Mole just was way quicker by nearly 0.9 of a second. That could explain the gap between them. In fact, the gap between them has been got another car in it now, because Stephen Earle, Iron Cup driver, mentioned him at the start of the qualifying session. He's slotted into second place. He's had his siesta. He's come out all guns blazing. So now Jens Moller, who's just made such a dominant start to the year, finds himself only 5th fastest in the session. Stephen Earle was second. Things change, and they change fast. Pavel Strukov has gone in his up to second place overall. Pavel in the Stilev Squadra Corse Ferrari, and Mario Cordoni is third. He's racing one of the 3 AF Corsa Ferraris. So it's Mercedes, Ferrari, and fourth place another Ferrari, which is Stephen Earle. Here's Jens Muller, struggling a tiny little bit, but only down by 1/10 of a second in the middle sector. He's set to improve, but he needs to. He's 1.1 seconds off the ultimate pace. And all this without Christian Hook setting a flying lap, but when he does so, suddenly we could have a different car at the top of the pile. But Jens Muller down in 5th in his Honda at the moment, looking to improve, has to improve, and I'm quite sure does improve. Just waiting for that time to be confirmed. Jens Muller had his best time removed for exceeding track limits at turn 16, the final corner. So instead of going forward, that's knocked him back to 8th place overall. But Christian Hook is bottom, but look, his first flying lap is fastest of all in the first sector, fastest of all in the second sector. So Murat Sultanov, who's just moved to the top of the charts by a massive 0.8 of a second, is surely about to be top. Surely the name at the top of the timing screens in the next handful of seconds will be that of Christian Hook. Waiting, there's the confirmation. He goes top, in turn by 0.8 of a second. Mario Cordoni fights back to get very close to Sultanov, but it's 3 Ferraris at the top of the charts now. Way clear. Christian Hook, 33. It's the bright green Ferrari just coming into shot there. 0.8 of a second quicker than Murat Sultanov. And another 1/10 of a second back to Mario Cordoni. And suddenly Lee Mole, who had been fastest, here he is now, the number 44 Mercedes, is down 1.6 seconds off the pace in 4th place overall. Tidy, but no improvement coming the way. He's backing off 6/10 down on his best in Sector 1, 6/10 down in Sector 2. Doesn't come into the pits, goes on another run, but what he's got is clear track ahead of him. Maybe he wanted to cool it down a little bit for a lap. He stays in 4th place. And he's got just under half a second down on him. Dilanta Malakamua and Jens Muller lost that lap. It drops him down to 8th or 9th position. Banged in the next one. The Honda goes second, half a second down on the ultimate pace. Christian Hook, top of the table, but Jens Muller coming back at him. And Mario Cordoni was third. He's fallen to 4th. He's improved in the first sector of the lap, but lost double what he's gained in the middle sector. So is he going to back off, make sure he's got space and attack the next time around? Where are the changes coming from? Murat Sultanov is third, Mario Cordoni is 4th, just over 1/10 of a second between them, but neither improving that time round. Car 51 is Mario Cordoni's. Still the huge heat haze down the back straight, coming out of turn 10, up towards turn 11, Lee Mole. Louis-Philippe Sonen in behind him, Louis down in 11th place, however. That said, still improving his own form. Louis-Philippe Sonen improved in Sector 1, improved in Sector 2. No traffic in Sector 3. Stephen Earle, we saw him get right towards the sharp end of the field. He slid back to 9th place overall in the number 111. Troubled middle sector, 1.4 down on his best, so that ain't happening. Just to show how fast things changed, last time I looked at the timing screen, Lee Mole was in 4th, he then dropped down to 7th, and he just banged in a time good for 4th all over again, 0.9 of a second down. I didn't notice if he'd had his best time taken away, but I think it could be just simply that everybody else started picking up the pace, and none more so than Christian Hook. Murat Sultanov, watching around the circuit, it tends to be, I hope I'm not about to just throw the spanner in the works. He tends to be super smooth and very, very conservative. His racing line is certainly not too leery out. There's an example of the 16th and final turn. Whatever he's doing, smooth is good, because 0.8 of a second down, but he's still third fastest. That lap, not as good as the previous one, it's almost a second down on the time. It's good for third on the grid, but not being flamboyant, and that's possibly a very good thing. Howard Blank bringing up the rear, 5 seconds down, but this lap alone he's found 2.1 seconds on his best time. That should get him really close to challenging Rick Lovett at the tail of the field. Rick racing for Kessel Racing, and Howard Blank for AF Corsa. Maybe the very best of the tyre life for Lee Mould has gone. You can see Sector 1, Sector 2, nowhere near his best pace. He's fourth, was 0.9 of a second down. That last time round was an improvement for him. But the driver who looks like he's really going to be putting an improvement is going to be the Honda ace, Jens Moller. He's just set his fastest second sector, his first sector very close to his best time. Here's Coach McCanty, number 17, Lamborghini, 1.3 seconds down on the pace and entering the pit lane, under 5 minutes remaining. Looking for the Honda, looking for Jens Moller on the start-finish straight. There he is, the black Honda with the lights ablaze. How good was that lap? Just waiting for the clock to tick. Stays in second place, 37, 3.5 tenths down on his very best. Couldn't see where precisely he lost time, but for the majority of them, it's not getting that third and final sector right, the really tricky section. Through the quick right at turn 12, the slower right at turn 13, down to the hard right at turn 14. And where, honestly, is it worse to ruin a lap? Make a mistake at turns 1, 2 or 3, or at turns 14, 15, 16? The drivers have been doing all those combinations, but generally it's the very end of the lap that really hurts. You think you've got everything else pretty much right, and then try to carry as much speed through those fast kicks, find yourself arriving too fast down at the hairpin at turn 14, and you know when it's gone. Howard Blank did improve his time last time around, but 4.8 seconds down on the ultimate pace, so the second part of the lap was a disappointment to him. Lee Mould continues to rumble his way around the circuit. That Mercedes, just such a baritone boom under acceleration. Sounds lazy and not at all laboured, but very effective. Rick Lovett, he was a driver we saw coming out, slightly getting away with some of his rivals. He's 11th fastest. He's only got to find a 5th of a second, and maybe he can depose Stephen Earle, fellow Iron Cup runner. Sizable loss on his best in the first sector. Second sector, really quite a sizable gain, but he's running on a net loss of a 5th of a second. That's the margin he needs to find to progress. Mario Cordoni just under a second down overall. He could gain a place or two, but as you can see, the clock is not his friend. Cordoni's trying to topple Murad Sultanov. Philip Sonnen always tends to run in white with green. That's a livery much preferred by him. Jens Moller, fastest of all, but only by the smallest of blinks of a gnat's-eyelid, 4/1000ths of a second up in first sector on the very best of Christian Hulk, the driver on provisional pole position. Jens pushing his Honda very hard indeed. His middle sector, good but not sensational, so he's lost a quarter of a second. He's a quarter of a second down on the lap. He's 2/3 of the way through it. Now he's got the technical end sector of the circuit. Looking for the change. A lot of these drivers are finding their tyres really aren't offering them what they wanted at this stage in the second. Stays second. 36.885, so within 0.04 of a second of his very best. So consistent, but not quite fast enough. He's half a second down overall on Christian Hook's Ferrari. Christian, cool, calm, collected into the final minutes of this second qualifying session, and he's sitting in the garage at Rinaldi Racing, cooling down, because even the handful of laps he's done will, on this very hot afternoon, have really taken their toll. And Mario Cordoni was quite good in the first part of the lap, did improve, and in fact is now just under 7/10 down the pole, but he stays in 4th position overall. Howard Blank, slowest driver, 4.8 seconds down on the overall pace. Is he going to improve this time? Don't think he is. No, he's not. He stays. In fact, that's down by almost precisely a second on his very best lap. He's got a chance to do one more flying lap, because the checkered flag will come out in just over 5 seconds time. So if he stays on the track, it will greet him when he comes around. Pavel Strukov, he is not going badly actually there. Some have already taken the checkered flag. Louis Philippe Soden has, and Pavel Strukov, Stile Squadra Corsa Ferrari, black with blue bonnet, is good at the moment for 8th place. Has to find half a second to move ahead of Dilantic Malagamua to go up into 7th, so it looks like 8 is where Strukov would say. And again, the body language of some of the cars on the circuit is that they have seen the checkered flag, or their teams have told them it's out, and they're backing off. So Pavel Strukov will start excuse me, at the 2/3 point on the grid for the first of the 2 races. Sorry, that's the grid for the second of the race. Of course, this is qualifying session number 2. The first race for the GT Sports Club is this evening at 6:05. It'll still be hot, it'll still be humid. The track will still be very, very difficult for tyres if you want to keep tyre life in them. So qualifying is one thing, but for all these drivers it's a case of focusing on the race ahead. And that has actually, because of various incidents earlier in the day, been shortened to 35 minutes. So maybe they don't have to do quite as much tyre saving as they would have done had it stayed at the original 50-minute planned duration. Limol brings it home. 3rd fastest in the ERC Sport Mercedes, the lone Mercedes in this race. I dare say we'll see some more through the course of the season. Denis Romagnaco, who competed in his Mercedes at the previous round, has stepped up to the Blancpain GT World Challenge in a Mercedes for this weekend. So there is movement between the various series, but here, after the second of the qualifying sessions, Christian Hook has the bragging rights for Rinaldi Racing, so it's a Ferrari on top, and by a good margin, by 0.512 of a second. Let's take a look at those qualifying positions. Rinaldi Racing, Christian Hook, top of the pile against Rino Muller in his Honda. Had to fight his way back up into 2nd place, and then ERC Motorsport doing what they do very well. Limol getting their Mercedes up to 3rd place. Mario Cordoni, Murid Sultanov, Coach McKenzie, all really close on times and giving chase. Dilanta, Malagamua and Pavel Strukov, then the rest a little more strung out, but we now know the identity of the pole starters for each of the 2 Blancpain GT Sports Club's races here at Misano. Let's take a look at the highlights. 12 cars went out to play, 12 cars tried to discover the very edge of the circuit. Some went beyond, some didn't even quite get all 4 wheels off the edge of the track. Generally clean session. Car number 56, the AF Corsa Ferrari of Howard Blank. Jura Blank went for a spin but was able to rejoin with no real damage done. Then it was a case of winding it all up all over again to make that charge to try and take the pole positions. Limol, always strong in his Mercedes, and again he didn't disappoint, but a driver who really worked his way through towards the front. Christian Hook in the bright green Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, really good job. And at the end of it all, he took pole by half a second, which gives him a real foot up for tomorrow's race. That's it for now from the GT Sports Club.